You're never going to guess how many condos have been taken off the market over the course of the year. We have the data from November sales, and of course, they're not looking good. We are continuing this downward trend in the real estate market where things are getting worse, and the version of things getting better, it's not really in sight, at least not for me. Now, I'm not pessimistic. I'm actually just being realistic about the real estate market. I think it's actually good that prices are coming down. They need to be at a more affordable base for people to get in. So I'm agreeing with a lot of people that are in the comment section on a lot of these videos saying rather that the prices need to come down more. And I tend to agree, because your average person cannot buy a home, whether that's a condo, townhouse, detached, whatever it may be, without having a secondary source of income, or a spouse or a significant other, or the parents chipping in. And I think we need to get back to the point where one single individual can buy a condo if they would like to, based on their income, which means prices have to come down further. They can't be spending 100% of their income to have a condo. It makes no sense. So take a look at this. I've got the data from Mississauga. First, we're going to look at the listing turnover data. What that means is the amount of listings that actually sell and don't sell, get taken off the market, how long it takes for them to sell. But check this out. April, May, June, July, August. Look at that. 70% of condos are being removed from the market and not sold. So we're only selling maybe 20 to 30% of the condos that actually hit the market. That is insane. And if you're looking from November only, already 23% of the condos that hit the market in November got taken off the market. So right out of the gate, a huge chunk of these in the first 30 days said, actually, this market sucks, I'm not going to sell. And look at that. You're only going to have basically a 1% chance to sell in the first week. In the second week, 4%. And then to round out your first month on market, you have essentially a 6% chance to sell your condo. So if there's 100 condos in your building, you want to be in those 6 condos to actually sell. That's really, really rough odds. And what that means is your package has to be amazing. You got to have the best price. You got to look the best. You got to be staged. You got to have everything in order to be one of the 6 out of 100, if we're going to use that 6% here, to actually sell just in the first 30 days. Not even in the first week we're talking. We're just talking in the first 30 days. That means you got to really be on top of your pricing. Now, we're going to look at just the detached category as well. We don't want to hit every category with this, because this video will end up being way too long for everybody here. But the detached homes are also having the same struggles. Not all 70%, but this year we are seeing a lot of homes get removed from the market because they are not selling. Whether that is sellers' expectations not being what they should be, whether that's buyers not being able to sell their semis, townhouses, condos, so they can't actually buy a detached home if that was their goal. We don't know for sure, but all I can tell you is that even the detached homes are pretty sluggish. 3% of them are selling in the first week, same with the second week, same with the month. Most of them here, the numbers do tend to get bigger in the end of the month or in their second month. That third or 2 months later, you're going to see these numbers aren't huge, which means that they kind of just get stale. So you really want to make sure that your price is just fantastic, so you can be selling in that first 45 days at most. You don't want to be on the market longer than that. If you are, that means you've really missed the mark on something. You might not be able to price your home at less than what you want to, but in order to sell, you're going to need to price it where you need to. That's something that you really, really need to understand. It's not about what you want. It's about what the market is actually going to pay for your home. All right, so let's look at the condo data. Let's see how bad it really is. Over the course of the month, we dropped off 35% on transactions. We saw new listings not coming out, so 21% less than the month before. And then that median price, it's now getting closer to $500,000 for the median condo. On the course of the year, we've seen a $55,000 drop off. That's a 9.4%. So almost 10% of your condo has evaporated this year. Not on top of all the other expenses, your maintenance, your property tax, all the other things that go into having a property. Your transaction volume is almost dropped 20%. And your new listings that have actually hit the market, we have a 10% increase. So people are still trying to get rid of those condos, probably a lot of investors as well in Mississauga, and they are not having much luck since sales are down and the inventory is up. Now, this is all condos. Important when we're looking at condos to really break this down for you. So the 1-bedroom condos, they've gone from last year 515 to this year 447. So this is a 13% drop. This is pretty massive. You've lost, what is that, 53, 60, like $70,000 on your 1-bedroom condo. Think about it. You save everything you can to try to get into the market, assuming you're not an investor, and you are just buying what you can. And in 1 year, you lose $70,000. Just to put that into perspective for you, you have $1,000 and you have now lost $700 for every $1,000 that you put into that condo. That is extremely difficult. That extra 30% won't even cover your expenses if you have to sell. That's rough. 30% less transactions have happened this year. And then of course we've seen a bump in inventory, 17%. But Mississauga condos, this has absolutely been destroyed. This market has been, it's sad, honestly, because if you bought one of these and you're living in it, you've lost a shit ton of money. You have lost more money than you would even be comfortable losing if you just bought a 1-bedroom condo with a single person's salary. Now, is this a good opportunity if you're looking to buy? Yeah, probably. I mean, there are people taking massive losses because they can't keep their properties. We've seen this in tons of our videos, and you'll have one here populate one of these corners, but this is how much things have come down in just 1 calendar year. Something to really, really consider if you're going to get into the market, how bad it could potentially go for you. Now, before we head into another category, let's look at those 2 bedrooms. Let's see how beat up they have gotten over the course of the year. Now, a 2-bedroom condo in Mississauga, we are now seeing down about 55K, 10%. So it's been hit hard, but more importantly, let's take a look at what some of the other categories are doing over here. The condo townhouse category, we have dropped off just about $50,000, so 5.9%. Hasn't seen the same type of hit. Of course, listings and transactions, these are going to be constantly down. So we've seen almost 20% here as well. Condos had north of 20%, but transaction volume is down here. We are seeing the inventory up about 10%. So we're seeing about 30 to 40% swing in every single category. Let's take a look. Where are those freehold townhouses at? Let's see. Have they taken that same beating? Last year at 990, they've actually held pretty well. I think a lot of people who are in a freehold townhouse are just saying, I'm not moving. I'm happy here. I don't need more space. And it doesn't make sense right now given the volatility of the market. So they dropped from 990 to 950. Overall, pretty stable. The transactions, I'm okay with that. It's very flat year over year. And of course, the new listings have bumped up about 40 new listings on the year compared to last year. But that's not horrible. So if you own a townhouse right now, this is the standout category so far. Semi-detached, they've taken a hit, but where are we at percentage-wise? We are at 4.9%, so slightly higher of a drop-off than what we just saw, but very similar numbers, right? We're talking $50,000 difference here. We've seen 50,000 or 50 transactions less take place this year, and another 300 or so listings hit the market. So semis and townhouses, freehold, are not too bad. Detached have been hammered in other markets. We just did our Brampton update, and Brampton was hammered as well. Let's take a look at what the detached homes look like right now. And a bigger loss than the other categories. 1.3 is where Mississauga is down to for a median detached home, and 1,370 is where we were at last year. Transaction-wise, we're down 10%. Transaction or new listing increase 16% higher. Now, in the other videos, I broke this down. So I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to break down a 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom. So first, let's look at what a 3-bedroom detached in Mississauga is going to cost you. And you'll see that populate here. So a 3-bedroom detached in Mississauga has dropped almost 7%. So we've dropped just about $80,000 there. So you're looking at 1.1. And what if we wanted a 4-bedroom detached in Mississauga? we are going to go from 1.1 to 1,285. So almost $200,000 more for that additional bedroom and the square footage that comes along with that. And that's actually dropped from 1,350 last year, so 4.5%. Listings, we've seen an increase here of 14%, and the sales we've seen drop off 8.5%. So this is one of those categories where I'm okay if the detached numbers move around, because most people who live in a detached home are in two different buckets. You just got into the detached market, you're going to be in this home for a while, so just keep paying it down, do expedited payments, make your mortgage term lessened by doing so. And then the other category is people who've lived in these homes for years and years and years. Maybe they bought a detached home for $500,000 or $600,000, so they likely don't have a mortgage. They've still got tons of equity in the property. Yeah, they had more at one point, but they have less now, and that's completely okay for me. Now, they're also probably either going to downsize and capitalize on the market there, or they're going to get out of the market completely. So these generally tend to be the boomer generation. If they're not giving their home to their kids, then they have maybe lost a little bit of equity, but they are not losing. So I'm okay with the detached market fluctuations. That condo market has been battered and bruised and really beat up. So that's really what I'd be targeting. If I'm a buyer right now, target that condo market with the insight that, hey, things can get bad, so you got to get a killer deal. Try to find a seller that just needs to get out. Don't just go and buy any condo, and really examine your deal appropriately. Look at the fees, look at what the building offers, whether it's the pool, gym, movie theater, things like that. And then what we need to do is analyze where the maintenance fees were and where they are now over the last 5 to 10 years, and all the other sales that have occurred in the building. We can kind of look at the fluctuation in those maintenance fees and figure out, have they seen the big bump? Have they been stable for quite some time and you can feel safe in a building like this with a maintenance fee? Or have they been low for a long time and they're ready to pop with a big burst of elevator repairs, balcony repairs, siding, things like that? That can be extremely expensive and cost you a ton of money if you are part of a condo, because they're going to come to you and knock on your door and give you two options. They will say, hey, we're going to increase the maintenance fee based on this, so we have enough in the budget to get it done, or there's a special assessment on the building, which means everybody's got to fork up a percentage to make sure that there's enough money to get some of these things done if there's not enough already in the condo bucket, so to speak, in that reserve fund they call it. So keep in mind, all of this is going to change depending on your situation. If you are just buying, caution, caution, caution. If you are selling and buying, I think it's a really good market to do it. You can buy something conditional on the sale of your property. You can negotiate. You need to understand you're going to need to negotiate on your sale as well. But if you're doing both in the same market, it's great. Ebb and flow. You're going to take a loss. You're going to take a gain. It'll all work out. But be cautious if you're on the buy side. If you need some guidance in this market, there's a banner on the bottom here. Feel free, scan it, book a one-on-one with me. We can talk about what makes sense for you to get your property sold or get you into the market, or do both and walk you through how that transition actually looks. Now, I've got two videos. One is a full buyer guide if you are a buyer looking for guidance, and this is a seller guide. This one is going to be a long 43-minute video. This is 26 minutes, so get your notepad, take some notes, and absorb some of the information that you're going to need to make the next transaction or transition in this real estate market.